What's up, nerds and nerdettes, and we little nerdlings all. It's your buddy Big Johnny G and the 20-sided Warriors. Woo! All right, so we got Raw Man, we got Oregon Al,
Hey.
and we got T-Bone. All right, guys. So, we just finished playing for the first time Tiny Epic Defenders: The Dark War. Now, as you saw, I previously played a solo game of the Tiny Epic Defenders 2nd Edition. And shame on these two for not watching the video. Kudos for Anthony.
There you go.
All right there, bringing a nice shiny apple to the teacher.
That's right.
So this was my first time playing the expansion and everyone's first time playing it in general. And they did ask at the beginning, you know, if there was anything I thought about jumping right into the expansion since they didn't play. And I told them I thought it would go well. I thought what I knew of playing through the base game, I didn't think there was anything super needed that we couldn't just jump you guys right into the Dark War. So first thing I want to ask you is, how accurate do you think I was with that statement?
Incredibly accurate. I really, playing through it, it really felt like with the expansion stuff, I'm like, oh, this is just one complete game. Like I couldn't discern like where the expansion stuff ended and the base game started, because it did. It really, like the expansion, I feel like added so much to the game, to the base game on its own, that I'm like, oh, okay, this works out really, really well. Like it was actually almost hard for me to see how the base game would have played without the expansion stuff. I almost feel like I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much if the expansion stuff wasn't a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we've played enough board games, I think, that we could hop right into it. It's not like with the expansion, it's some big, deep, heavy game. Right. It's still, probably moderate complexity. So for us, not a big deal to jump right into it. I think if you have a less experienced board game group, you may want to jump into the base game first.
Yeah.
But again, it's not. Dark War didn't add a whole lot of complexity. It added experience, skills which are associated with experience, and then caravans to escort,
and some cool looking 3D pieces.
Oh, and I guess it did add those 2 extra areas that had the stuff going around. So it added a little bit of complexity, but it wasn't anything that you couldn't hop into if you're an experienced board gamer.
Yeah.
It wasn't overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. Piggybacking off both of what Ryan and Alex have said, I can't imagine not playing with both of these out together.
Yeah.
I'm not saying playing with one would be terrible or not fun to play, but I like the added aspect of having an add-on actually just feels seamless. It doesn't feel like, this has really totally changed the feel of the first part of the game that I know well and love and play.
Yeah.
A lot of times you get game expansions, it seems you're like, wow, you really eliminated stuff I liked about the original game. This expansion is kind of taking away from that, and then you start to mix and match. This feels like, I don't know, why would I not want to play with the expansion?
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Unlike Galaxies, this was more seamless than Galaxies. Galaxies is pretty seamless, but Galaxies added in pilots and added in that whole black hole area and like new scoring concepts. So it changed how you play the game more deeply. This, I feel like it added skills, so it just gives you more. This gave you more options rather than really changing the game in a fundamental level.
Like adding a whole other side thing in Galaxies, whereas opposed to this, all just kind of blends organically into everything. Yeah. That's exactly
Not that any of us have any problems whatsoever with Galaxies or Beyond Black.
I love Galaxies.
No, we love it. But I think it's a distinction between a different way that expansions can take it.
Yeah, this was done so well. I like it.
And just playing in general, I mean, having not played Defenders, the only Tiny Epic game I ever played was the Galaxies one. So jumping into this, which is a different playstyle because it's more cooperative, and Galaxies is competitive.
Right.
Even that, I mean, like, having that component of it was actually really interesting too. How the two games of the same sort of series can be two such different
Right.
subcategories.
Right.
So that was kind of cool to jump in on.
Yeah, so this is, I think, the second cooperative Tiny Epic game that they've done, because John and I played Quest.
Right.
Which was also, oh, you played Quest with us?
I did not.
Okay. And that's also cooperative, but I think the other three, Western, Kingdoms, and Galaxies
Are all competitive.
Gotcha. So,
The new one, Zombie, has all of those.
Yeah, let's
5
find out.
modes in total. In fact, Alex has already came. He brought a copy of it,
I did.
and I'm thinking we may have to film that.
Yeah, we could do an unboxing.
No, we may have to film the playthrough.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you didn't even unbox yours yet?
No?
Ooh.
His is mint.
I mean, I'm surprised. I thought you ordered yours after I ordered mine.
I thought I did too, so...
So I was under the assumption I had a lower backer number, but oh well, we'll see. We'll see.
Shouldn't you give yourself a dun dun dun?
Dun 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 dun.
So I did like... so one of the changes that they made was they added these caravans in the Dark War, which we had to get all the caravans to the capital before we could kill the big bad at the end.
Right.
Which didn't end up mattering a whole lot because we got it there with, I think, 2 turns or 1 turn before.
Yeah,
the end,
I would
so-
say the full. What do we have? 4 people here playing.
Yeah, we
Like,
had the full 4.
Wow, this is simple. So, let's say John's character moved it up a spot. You went next. Like, okay, well, I'm going to take it the rest of the way. Done.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, that was pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, having 4 people really sort of helps
by
that
far.
out a lot, because you end up having, once everybody ends up going, you have 3 actions, 7 actions going in total, and then I was playing the character that gave one person 1 extra action whenever I was going. So we basically had 8 actions all going at once, which is
You're basically just dragging them in one episode.
yeah. I mean,
out.
it was constant movement. Constantly getting around to mitigate damage as the different areas were attacked as enemies came out.
That is one thing that I would like to... I'm interested in is how this game scales, because it sounds like it was a little bit different experience for John when he was
When
playing...
he was doing his 2, right?
Yeah, he was playing solo.
Well, why don't you guys watch the video and find out?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's something interesting to keep in mind, is how these type of games scale, because some of them scale really well, and some of them scale, the difficulty scales as you scale the number of players, which is always interesting. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good.
Early on, I mean, obviously we were really hitting out of the park when we were able to do everything. It was towards, as we got towards the end of the game, where we were 2 areas are gone already, 2 more on the brink of it.
Right.
So we sort of were like in a little bit of panic mode right at the end, but we sort of let clear our heads.
That gave me exactly what you're talking about, Ryan. That's the same feeling I get with Forbidden Island.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Near the end, when you're looking at everything
there's only
is
4 spaces
sunk or almost sinking, and it's like, well, we were doing so good 3 turns ago. Yeah, it has that
can
same
really
exact
change really fast.
feeling.
And that's sort of what happened, is that we lost 1 spot. We're like, okay, that's fine. And all of a sudden, 1 spot becomes 3.
Right.
And the city's under attack. You're like, wait, okay.
What
There's a
happened
lot
here?
going on. Let's figure out what we need to do. And just sort of
I just went up for a drink of water. I came back, and the world is falling apart.
But I mean, we were able to kind of mitigate everything and come back to it. And
There was a good portion of the game where it's like it would go up for a what was it called again? It was under attack or
Region, I think?
yeah, region was under attack. You're like, I'm already there. I'll take the hit.
Yeah, I'll take
bring it
care
right
of it.
back
It's
front
fine.
level back down to 0. It was like you said. It was only towards the very end of the game where you're like, wow, we lost 2 lands. A few more are getting out of control. We really need to get to the boss and try and end this game.
And Ryan had those healing potions skill or something. He was
I had a
amazing.
healing potion that was able to kind of just give a point here and there, which ended up being a little more valuable than I expected.
The one thing we found odd was, and I can't remember if it's in the rules or not, we all took turns pulling cards out for other people.
Yeah,
And we didn't, and it wasn't until Alex said something about 45 minutes in, like, does it really matter?
It doesn't matter.
It's
We
a
don't
card
know why
because
we did
it's
this.
just an action. I think it's just that necessity to be involved in the game.
Yeah, we ended up
Take a
looking at the
turn.
rules, and it's like, reveal the card. It doesn't say anything
It
about
doesn't say
passing
about
around.
turns,
So,
right.
The reason why they threw it up is because the way that the game takes turns is that everyone has a designated color. It's a yellow, red, blue, and green.
Yeah.
And so when the red card comes up,
Yeah, even
that
if Right. Let's say your character was
I was green.
green, so if you drew the red card, that means he goes. It doesn't mean you do anything.
Right,
So
right.
we just got used to going around.
Kind of like, yeah,
taking
you do a
turns.
card, the John would do a card, but I don't think we can do that. We just have,
No.
have
No,
one
we
person.
totally didn't.
We just have one person be like the card guy. He
Right.
draw
Yeah.
the cards.
Right. Almost like the
And that's
maker.
okay.
of
Yellow's
Monopoly.
out,
Exactly.
yellow goes,
Right.
green's out. So that's how it is. Instead of it being a traditional like, okay, Anthony, it's your turn to take all your actions. John goes and Ryan goes. It was okay. The blue card's out. Now it's your turn.
Now it's your turn to go.
And then at the beginning of the next turn, the blue card could come out right away.
Right.
So you
Right.
could take basically 6 actions all in a row
Right.
because you ended the last
Yeah.
turn and started the next one, which happened a couple different times.
Happened
Yeah,
to
there
me
was
at
a
least
couple of
once.
times.
You
Yeah,
have
especially-
you
At least once it went blue and then blue
shuffle
from
back in,
end to
back
begin.
blue,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like I said, like after Alex pointed that out, and we all thought about it for a moment. It's like I said, the game doesn't have player turns.
Yeah.
There's just rounds.
Yeah. Right.
And a round is determined by are there any cards left in the turn deck.
Right.
Right.
It's almost like, to put it in like D&D terms, it's almost like a forced initiative thing, where it's like,
Yeah.
you know, instead of actually rolling initiative, it's randomized by the deck of cards. So
Yeah.
it's like, oh, these enemies here have a higher roll, so they're going first. Okay,
Right.
now the yellow player has the next highest roll, so now they're going. So instead of, you know, leaving it to chance off with dice, you're leaving it to chance by what cards come out. So it is sort of like an initiative-based
Yeah.
system. When you think, that just occurred to me.
So any final thoughts?
I liked it. It's an interesting type of game. I don't know how exactly I would classify it. It's not really area control.
Yeah.
Because
No.
you're basically just you're mitigating.
Area management?
Yeah, because it's kind of like pandemic in a way, in that stuff pops up on different parts of the board, and
Right.
you're mitigating the threat level
The
on
threat
the
level.
different regions
Yeah.
rising. And in this, it's like pandemic. You can go there and take it down,
Right.
but you can also stick your guys. The different players can post their
Right.
their characters on the different spots and actively defend it to keep the threat
Threat
from
level.
being added
Right.
in the first place.
So I'll say the one thing I thought there was kind of I don't know if it's a negative necessarily. With 4 people playing, we lost 2 different lands, and suddenly you go from having 3 actions to 4. You're like, well, why would I not want an extra action?
Yeah, like let it burn down.
Let it burn down. I get an extra action, and I get to
Sacrifice
attack the
that's
boss.
fine.
Okay, sure, no problem. That was my only
So there was an advantage to
letting a
losing
land
the
burn.
burn.
Yeah.
Letting the world burn. So that was my only kind of like,
Yeah.
like why would I? You would think you would get a deducted action since you've let a land expire or burn to the ground, per se. But
The only way
you
I
got
can-
an extra one.
The only way I think of it thematically would be, as things are getting overrun, that's when panic mode ensues. And you're
That's
working
true.
harder
That's a good point.
to fight it off. Or it's like maybe in the background it's like, oh yeah, you have more reinforcements.
We didn't
to-
even care there at the end. We had 2 lands gone. We're like, well, the boss has only got 2
Yeah, we're like
hit
we're
points.
all over here.
We
He
got
only has a
tons
couple
of
hits
weapons,
left.
so let's just take them out.
Wasn't there like
And that'll
4 lands destroyed by the end of the
Oh,
game?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
and the capital city was up like 7.
Yeah.
7 out of 10
So-
damage.
Yeah.
I mean, it was close. If we didn't kill the boss
On
that
that
round,
turn.
we probably would have.
That was
And in all fairness, we made a mistake. We didn't catch till later on concerning the dire enemies. So there would have been a little bit more damage done to the
Yeah.
land. So we might not have actually won the game if we
Yeah, it would have been a
remembered
little
that.
closer.
Yeah. But as far as all the other stuff, I love the cards. I think
Tons of characters.
Yeah, tons of characters to the point where you're like, you see one, you're like, oh boy, I like the aesthetics on this. You read the powers, like those powers are good. But then 2 cards, you're like, oh man, I like
This
this
is
one
really
too,
cool, yeah.
and I like that one. So I think the artwork's great. I thought putting the little pieces that you can actually plug into the meeples, I thought that was
gonna
the
point
The
that out.
item
Yeah.
meeples?
Yeah, the item
So the meeples, I don't know if you can see it. So they have these little little holes on the sides where things can fit right into. So you can have like a back component, like a back artifact,
Love
like
that.
wings or something, and then you can get weapons that also fit right into the front side.
And this
right
is
there, so it just kind of sits right there, and you have all this extra little stuff. It doesn't really add like any because the card has all the descriptions,
Right,
but
yeah.
it's still such a cool
It's just,
little
yeah,
like.
at least
I'm
you know
gonna
what you
put-
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a cool little extra.
Little add-on.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for things like
I
this.
love that too.
As Anthony remember when I was a kid, I used to have a Hobbit board game that was 3-dimensional
Yeah.
with cardboard, forest, and it literally made it pop. Visually made it pop. I'm a sucker for anything like that, and I have been ever since. Dark Tower, the big electronic tower, anything that's kitschy. And this is kitschy, so I really dug it.
That's fun. Yeah. Overall great. I think it has also really high replayability also because of how it's just the sheer number of player characters, especially with the expansion, and the number of epic monsters that you can fight. Yeah, because I mean, all like the regular enemies, the dire enemies, you're pretty much going to get the same ones for the most part.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it has to do with this area is under attack, now this area is under attack. But the dire monster, the epic monsters, where it really kind of changes, and that's where you get the replayability aspect.
Right, I agree.
It's really, really
All right, so if you could say one final thing about the game, Ryan.
had a lot of fun with it. Looking forward to playing it again, switching it up, playing it with another character, and seeing what comes of it.
All right, Alex, if you had one final thing to say.
I think it's got a great setup to ease you into the game, especially the first time, because it does get more difficult as the game goes. So we had a few rounds to learn it,
Right.
which was great. And so that's always nice when there's a built-in little buffer so that you don't, new players don't just dive in and hit their head on the bottom of the pool.
Right. Sure.
Yeah.
And Anthony, well, if you had one final thing to tell someone about this.
I'll piggyback off of Alex here. New players will not feel overwhelmed whatsoever. I think it's a very easy game to pick up, get right into, start playing, and you don't have to ask a ton of questions. The cards, your actions are all pretty much spelled out right on the card. Mm-hmm. What costs what to do, whatever action you want to do. I loved it. It was fun.
I agree. This is a fun game. I want to see what different combinations, how they play out. That's for sure. All right, everyone. So thank you for checking us out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And, of course, as always, thank you for subscribing us right here on YouTube, for following, for liking, and for commenting. I'm your buddy Big Johnny G, and this is the 20-Sided Warriors. And we are...